Blog Talk Radio.
Please take all the necessary precautions to protect your constitution while listening to this broadcast. 3, 2, 1. Coming to you live via the internet. It's time for Rage Against the Regime. Let's get ready to rumble! Finally, a show for patriots, defending the Constitution and uncovering the truth at every turn, bringing you exclusive interviews and covering the topics the mainstream media doesn't dare to touch. Call in and join the discussion at 929-477-3565. That's 929-477-3565. And now, here are your hosts, Bobby Who's the Man and Becky Williams. Rage Against the Regime.
I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man. Yes, I am, yes, I am.
A voice with hopes that you're listening. Voice of America, I'm speaking from the citizens. Tired of the lies, all the false narratives. For us to survive, we must stand up as Americans. Need to alter the course that's been written. It's history, not his story. They mix it in with fiction. Behind the scene decisions, you're blind to see the visions. Freedom isn't free, society is prison. Fed up, I won't let up. There's no more room for mess up. The administration's a bit outrageous. I think it's time we step up. How about I check off the definition of evil? Pay millions to bomb countries, but can't feed our own people. These countries don't even pose threats. Can Congress or progress? Syria, no GMOs left. Rothschilds want their own checks. Pipelines to control next. How many more lives will drones get? It's 7 countries, 5 years, destabilized. No sweat. I have a voice with hopes that you're listening. Voice of America, I'm speaking from the citizens. Political smokescreens, they're giving you nothing. No hope streams, I have children, where are they going? World War III, to grow up in that era is something that we don't want. The thought of that should scare you. To cause and acts prepare you. No thoughts, just facts that flares up. Post flag attacks won't spare you. They bury you, no care for you. The credibility's been gone. The peace prize you sit on, you're pissing in a windstorm. Give it back, it's been gone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under. It's not about homegrown radical terrorists, more like brainwashing, driving fear in Americans. Many are sleeping, unaware of this, believing MSM, they're sheep. Now I'm very pissed. What about us? The dollar is increasing. We can't afford to live, but this problem is a peace thing. The power of the people is no secret. Look at Egypt. What do we get? No respect, because our free debt has interest. The preset is business. So banks never lose when they risk it. Just create.
Welcome to Rage Against the Regime podcast. I'm your host, Becky Williams, and I have a very special guest this evening. His name is Eric Jewell. He is a retired vet and pastor. He worked in intelligence in the military. After a long conversation yesterday that I had with Mr. Jewell, I I asked him if he would be a guest today, and he gracefully accepted that, and I appreciate it, sir. Eric, welcome to Rage Against the Regime podcast. How are you this evening? Eric, are you on the line? Can anyone hear me?
Becky, I can hear you.
Okay, let me see if I've got our guest online. Who is this that's on open mic? Is that Eugene?
Yes, me.
This is Becky Williams. Is this Eric? Eric? Eric Jewell. 661 area code. Hello?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Hi, Eric. I'm having a little bit of audio problems. I tried to speak earlier, and it wouldn't let me speak, and tried to unmute your mic, and I had an issue. It happens sometimes with Blog Talk Radio. It's my audience. I do apologize. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good, Becky. And I'm glad to be on the show tonight. And you can hear me now?
Yes, sir. I can hear you now. That's perfect.
Okay,
Am I coming
good.
in to you as well, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh. All right, fantastic. Well, Eric, I'm thrilled that you agreed to join us today on our show, and I've promoted the show very heavily for the last 20 minutes and throughout the day as well. So I expect we will have a very broad audience listening in this evening. Some folks will probably join us here shortly. They had to get home from work, grab a bite to eat before they can get down to the meat of the subject, so to speak. But I expect we'll have a lot of interaction this evening. Eric, if you wouldn't mind, would you tell the folks a little bit about your background in the military and your position as it is today?
Yeah. I as a young man, I originally, I've been a very patriotic man all my life, and still a patriot. Originally, I wanted to my country in as best way as possible, and I'm kind of I have several different types of talents, so I thought I would be in the CIA. Of course, this was many decades ago, and the CIA had a different sort of reputation than it does today. I basically wanted to work for my nation overseas and see the world, do exciting things, spy, do whatever I could do. So I thought that originally the best way to get into the CIA would probably be to go through military intelligence as a stepping stone. So I took the test. I joined the Army Intelligence. I was stationed down in Panama, and Fort Clayton, Panama. While I was there during the Reagan administration, during the Ollie North days, Guns for Guns days, and we worked basically assisting in transitioning the governments that weren't working with our government in the way that some of our intelligence agencies perceive that they should be working for them. So I found myself in the field a few times delivering basically what we were doing is delivering guns, ammunition, and that sort of thing to the armies that we were raising up to overthrow those governments, and we were calling them freedom fighters. So I believed in what we were doing up until a certain point. I began to see a few things. First of all, the one thing that I noticed was that there seemed to be a reason to overthrow these governments as far as the population nations were concerned. The people, of course, in any nation, you're going to have disagreements. You're going to have people that dissent. You're going to have people that disagree with certain legislations. But as a whole, be happy with their government. And yet we were there transitioning that government. The way we would operate, of course, the intelligence agencies would go through and they would pick certain people to lead armies, lead regime change, and many of the people that they picked were very brutal people. The people that were heading the so-called freedom fighters were, in fact, a lot more brutal than the governments that we were transitioning. So they would go through certain villages, and they had their own method of recruiting, which generally boiled down to just walking into the villages and taking young kids, young boys, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. And that was basically the freedom fighter armies, as we called them. And this was all funded by the CIA. And, of course, since we were transitioning the government and we were raising people pretty much from nothing, they didn't have any way to pay for the guns, the ammunition, and everything that we were bringing down there to them. But they, of course, ended up trading with cocaine, basically. And this was verified through Oliver North when he was before Congress and testified about guns for drugs.
Brother, can I interrupt you for a minute? You sound like you're in a tunnel. We seem to have a bad connection. I've got people sending me chat saying they're having a really hard time understanding you. Is there a possibility I might get you to hang up and call back in and see if you can get a better connection?
I'll be happy to. I'll
God
call
bless
you, right
brother.
back.
Okay,
God bless
thank you. I'm sorry about that, folks. I seem to be having an issue. Once again, I mean, it wouldn't be Blog Talk Radio if we didn't have an issue, would it? Jean, are you on the line with us, ma'am?
Yes, dear, I am.
Jean
I'm
Smith.
here, sister.
Hey, sweetie, how are you doing today?
I'm okay.
Man, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Considering by communism, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm tired of waking up angry and going to bed angry, personally. I'd like to have some normalcy in my life, you know. It's starting to get just a little bit friggin' irritating to me. Can you guys hear me very well? I know I had an issue. It wouldn't let me, I was speaking and I wasn't getting any action back from anybody. So are you guys hearing me on here very well? Okay.
I can hear you, Greg. You know.
Fantastic. Hey, you've posted up some really good information today, and it's just mind-blowing. The depth of corruption just never ceased to exist. I'm blown away by the... Pardon? Go ahead, sis.
The tentacles are so... They're everywhere, Becky, and you know, it just literally nauseates me because it is so big. It's just this monster that's so big. I don't even know how we can do anything about it. I mean, exposing it.
I don't either. I really am. I'm hoping that Eric's back on the line. He's called back in. I'm hoping that he can help us. You know, when I was speaking with him yesterday, he described it much as you and I do. Is just this giant octopus with so many tentacles. Eric, brother, can you test? Let me hear your connection. Eric, can you hear me?
Can you?
Yeah. There you go. Test. All right. Can you guys hear Eric now? Eric, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Fletch, does that sound better to you when Eric speaks? How about you, Jean?
Not really, no. It sounds the same to me.
Well, we're probably having a little NSA interference then because of his position in intelligence. We're going to try to battle through this. Are you on a landline, sir, or are you on Skype or
Yeah,
Eric?
this is Skype, and we're directly connected, so it should be coming
okay,
through.
That may be part of the issue. Sometimes Skype doesn't come in very clear on Rage, so we'll just bear with you, brother, and let's move forward. I didn't mean to cut you off. Feel free to go ahead and pick back up where you left off.
Okay, well, yeah, basically we were transitioning governments that didn't need to be transitioned. We were supplying guns, ammo, eventually night vision equipment, that sort of thing, to these little peasant armies that we were raising up to overthrow the governments. And we were doing it basically because these are governments that were not working with the CIA in the capacity that they thought they should be working with regarding the drug trade. So that's what all of these transitions were basically for. Now, if you study our history, that we've done this in Africa, we've done this in Central and South America, we've done this in Asia, and every time you see a war going on like this, it has to do, like what we saw in Central America when I was there, it has to do with drugs. That's the big thing right there. Drugs and guns are secondary. Guns are profitable. Arms and ammunition is profitable, but the drug trade just brings in money by the ton. So, we could transition this into our recent wars. For instance, we were told that we were going into Afghanistan to get bin Laden. Of course, we know now bin Laden wasn't in Afghanistan. Bin Laden was, in fact, in Pakistan and even at some of our military bases there on occasion. So it wasn't about bin Laden. It wasn't. When they tell us it was about Al-Qaeda, though, that is partially true. Al-Qaeda had been duly elected by the people of Afghanistan, the people who were siding with Al-Qaeda, the people that were sympathetic to Al-Qaeda, were duly elected by the people, democratically elected, I might add. And the first thing they did, you have to understand that the Al-Qaeda, the people that were heading Al-Qaeda, the people that were associated with it, they really are a religious folk, and they weren't being hypocritical about some of the things that they believed in, and very much unlike our own CIA. One of the first things they did when they took over Afghanistan was they began to close down all of the poppy fields, and I mean all of the poppy fields. They were burning them to the ground. They were destroying them. They were making sure that they weren't replanted. So basically Al-Qaeda ended up destroying the poppy trade in Afghanistan. Now, there was one other issue they had, too. 2001, during 1999-2000, our government was trying to negotiate a Conoco oil pipeline through the country. And Al-Qaeda said no. The people that ruled Afghanistan said no. We're not going to run a Conoco pipeline through Afghanistan. Now, since we've removed Al-Qaeda and we've transitioned that government, we now have a Conoco pipeline running right through the middle of the nation, and we have poppy at record production, exports at record production. So CIA is back in business there. That's where they make the bulk of their money, is in the drug trade. So we have the same thing going on in Central America and South America during the Reagan administration, during the Reagan years. And that's what we were doing. That's why I was there specifically, to help provide communication for the people that were, in fact, making the deliveries of guns and then taking the payment of cocaine.
So essentially what you're telling me is that we've been correct when it comes to running arms and this government being heavily involved in using military forces to essentially run drugs or assist in the manufacturing, the growth, or the running of those drugs. Is that correct?
That's absolutely true. And this goes way back. There was a 1973 Time magazine article, as a matter of fact. Anybody can look this up. And during the Vietnam War and the fact that it had been uncovered that during the Vietnam War, they were smuggling drugs. They were smuggling heroin back in the body bags, in the body cavities of our U.S. servicemen and women that were being killed in Vietnam. So,
my God.
Yeah,
Go ahead, brother.
That's a very sad fact, but it's very true. You're going to find out that the CIA and our intelligence services, they have no ethics. Their sole ethic is to maximize themselves and completely realize their own potential as far as possible. You've probably heard of Ayn Rand. She wrote The Fountainhead. She wrote Atlas Shrugged. She's a very well-known author in certain circles, especially among the neoconservatives. The neocons love Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand was educated in Leningrad during the days of Stalin, and she came over to the United States in the early 1960s, and her stated mission was to change the American lifestyle. She wanted to destroy religion. She wanted to destroy Christianity. She believed that it was the bane of society. And so she began going about her work in political circles and such, and she wrote literature now that stands as classical to men such as George Herbert Walker Bush, George W. Bush. They love her work. Anytime any neoconservative, you can ask them about Ayn Rand or you can ask them about Atlas Shrugged, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. They all read it. Well, Ayn Rand in Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, those two books right there pretty much describe her philosophy. And her stated philosophy is that a person, an individual, should maximize themselves with absolutely every move, every thought, every deed that they do. So maximizing yourself by her standards comes by stepping on others, comes by taking from others. There is no room for pity. There is no room for mercy. There is no room for ethics. All of that stuff is secondary, and all of that stuff is not even secondary. It's a hindrance, according to her philosophy. So that's the type of influence we have leading our neoconservative movements. Something else very interesting about our neoconservatives, that our neoconservatives, most people think that they go back to the 60s or 70s, but this simply isn't true. The movement actually goes back to the early 1900s that I've traced it back so far in a very concrete way, and it actually goes back even further than that. But from 1917, we have some very interesting things happening. In the Skull and Bones movement, for instance, the Skull and Bones Society at Yale University, Prescott Bush, we had Averell Harriman's brother, we had F. Truby Davidson, we have several people there that are associated with the Skull and Bones that went on into Army intelligence. They went on into various types of military intelligence and government intelligence agencies. They helped to actually shape the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services. That was later closed down, and they revamped it, reopened it under the name of CIA. And Prescott Bush and his Harriman contacts, Skull and Bones friends, F. Truby Davidson was the first hiring manager, I guess you call him, at the CIA. So we have the Bush clan, for instance, and all of the Skull and Bones people in the highest levels of our intelligence agencies and the highest levels of business, banking. It just goes on and on. They're the ones that have created this octopus. They are the ones that created what Eisenhower referred to as the military-industrial complex. When we hear the military-industrial complex, most people have no idea the large part that the Bush family has played in this and their allies. But they are direct players in this. Pardon me. And they have played key parts in absolutely destroying this nation and committing political coups, I would say. When we do this up, when we bring this on up into the 1940s now, we have the same players. We have the Harrimans, we have the Bush family. They're now forming the CIA, and we have the end of World War II. Now, the end of World War II saw what we call Operation Paperclip, where we brought Nazi doctors, Nazi scientists over to this nation by the thousands, and they were placed in the highest levels of operation as operation heads and division chiefs of the CIA and the medical divisions and the chemical divisions and the divisions that controlled the mind control experiments. MK Ultra was not just one program. MK Ultra, for instance, was an umbrella project under which hundreds of programs operated. So we have implicit in bringing these people over. But even before Operation Paperclip, while we were at war with the Nazis, the Bush family, the Harriman family, were actually funding these Nazis. And they were funding these experiments. They were funding all of this stuff, and they were very well aware of what was going on in Nazi Germany at the time while we were at war with them. So their banks, too, were eventually confiscated, but through sleight of hand, payment, threatening, this and that, they never took a loss. All of the money that was confiscated from their banks was eventually returned to both families. So they never took a loss at all. The point being, these people, the Bush family and their allies and their Skull and Bones friends, we look at them now as the neoconservatives. And the history that I'm trying to draw out here for everybody shows that they are of the Nazi mindset. They are of the Ayn Rand mindset. They are all for maximizing themselves at the expense of everybody. Everything that they do profits them and them alone.
Wow.
Them are very specific people in this case. So that's what's going on in our nation right now. The neoconservative movement is nothing more than a Nazi movement, neo-Nazi movement. They have gone on and kept up with the atrocities. They kept up with the experiments. They kept up with performing missions on U.S. soil and Canadian soil, pardon me, against U.S. citizens, against Canadian citizens, and they've actually been sued by certain citizens of Canada and had to pay out big time. So that's what's going on. That's the people that are leading us into this ruin right now. And another interesting thing, I personally believe that our U.S. intelligence agencies overthrew the nation, overthrew our constitutionally elected government when they murdered Kennedy. It's a proven fact. We have all kinds of evidence right now. They can try to cover it over any way they want to, but it cannot be covered over. If anybody looks into the murder of Kennedy, they are eventually going to find several damning things against these intelligence agencies. First of all, we have Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods, I'm sure most of your audience has heard about, Becky, and that was brought up by the Joint Chiefs of Staff under President Kennedy. And Operation Northwoods was basically a list of ideas for false flag events that would implicate Cuba so that we would have a reason to justify going to war against them. And when President Kennedy eventually was going to have to sign off on Northwoods or not, so once they presented the plan before him, Kennedy was so enraged, he fired his head chief of staff, General Lemnecker. He fired him from the Joint Chiefs of Staff, got rid of him. Then we had the Bay of Pigs. Now, the Bay of Pigs, George Herbert Walker Bush was directly involved with the Bay of Pigs. He was directly involved with the CIA training camp in around the lake in Louisiana. He was directly involved. He knew Lee Harvey Oswald. So we have all of these things implicated. Even more, George Bush actually was complicit in delivering arms, ammunition to the Cuban exiles that they were creating an army for to invade Cuba. They were responsible for training them. They were responsible for moving them around the country. And when Kennedy, of course, was pushed into the corner, they were trying to invade Cuba and force Kennedy's hand to back them, but he refused to do that. Of course, that created the fiasco where the entire army was either captured or killed, and that enraged the CIA. And when Kennedy threatened to bust them into 1,000 pieces at that point, well, then we had a very dirty picture coming around. On the day that Kennedy was killed, this is a matter of record. It's public record. Anybody can look this up. Richard Nixon was in Dallas that day. George Herbert Walker Bush was in Dallas that day. E. Howard Hunt from Watergate with the CIA was there that day. Now, a lot of people would say that George Herbert Walker Bush was never a member of the CIA until he became the head of the CIA. And that's just utterly ridiculous. He became the head of the CIA in the 70s, in the early 70s, but it would be utterly naive to think that he had never been in the CIA beforehand. And there does exist a memo from Hoover, the head of the FBI at the time, the day after the Kennedy assassination. Now, we know George Herbert Walker Bush was in Dallas on the day of the assassination. The day after the assassination, Hoover remarks in the that George Herbert Walker Bush from the CIA stopped in to visit and talk to him about the Kennedy assassination. Now, I personally believe that Hoover was threatened and leveraged that day in covering his rear end by letting us know who was there and what it was regarding. But suffice it to say, Hoover specifically states that George Bush was working with the CIA at the time. So this was in 1963, over a decade before he became head of the CIA. And once this was revealed, then people realized he was a liar and had something to hide. But our mainstream media have never, of course, pursued this. So this is the type of people that we have in power right now, leading our nation and leading us into war. Everywhere you look, Becky, it doesn't matter where you look in this country or in this entire world right now. Any place you see problems, you see the United States of America. Any place you see unrest, you see U.S. Now, I support our troops, and I feel sorry for our troops. Most of our troops have no idea what in the world they're doing or why they are there. I do support our troops, but I certainly do not support any of the things that they're being sent out to do right now. I think that if our leaders cared about this nation, first of all, they wouldn't be going around destroying our Constitution intentionally the way they're destroying it. But secondly, our money is best spent at home. There's no question about it. These men do not care one bit about our country. And everything that we see on TV, everything we read about in the newspaper regarding our politics, it's all a fictional story. All of the fights that we see in Congress between the so-called Republicans and the so-called Democrats is nothing more than a show, than a screenplay. That's all it is. It's a screenplay for the American people to sidetrack them, to misdirect them, to make them think, well, we can vote this one out, vote this one in, we can vote Republican, we can vote Democrat, and change the whole thing. That's never going to work. You're not going to ever vote these people out of office. It is not going to work. We have lifetime politicians for a reason. That reason is so they can accomplish their goal. They can accomplish their mission.
Yeah, I agree with you. And boy, you said a mouthful. I've got some people here that are listening in that are chatting with me, and they're gobsmacked by the information they've just received. I think your credentials precede you, and they give validation to your research and the truth that you're telling. You know, the sad thing is this. We're at war, in my opinion. Would you concur with that? We're already in war.
Good. Yes. Yes.
The government has declared war on the people, and you know, trying to get the people to understand two things. One, we are at war. The war is with our own shadow government, and the other thing is to get them to understand. Stop saying we have to wait for the first shot in order to exercise the rights that you scream about according to the Constitution. Your Second Amendment rights put there for this reason. Yet you refuse to act on your Second Amendment right that you're screaming about. You're just worried that they're going to take away your gun. You need to understand why they want to take away your gun. The other thing that just makes me absolutely nauseous is for someone to tell me, well, we can vote it out. You cannot vote out what has a death grip on America. Would you concur with that?
That is never going to happen. These people will never be voted out of office. That is a fact. We have too many things working against us, and the American people need to understand this. First of all, when the government, every time they say, well, we've got to change this or we've got to change that, the very first thing that people ought to understand is they need to ask why. Why are they changing this? So you'll watch mainstream news a decade ago, and you'll hear them saying, well, you know, our campaign finance laws are way out of hand. Our campaign finance laws need to be revamped. They're being abused. So the first thing they do, they get the American people behind that, and they say, well, yeah, they are being abused, blah, blah, blah. So what do? here's how they changed it. They go on to define a corporation as an individual. And then they go on to change the rule to say, well, now an individual can give as much money as they want to any political candidate or any political party. So what that does, that eliminates the power of the American people right now to do anything at all. They're not going to be able to outfund a single corporation, let alone the hundreds that are giving to the political campaigns of the various politicians that we have put before us. And remember, none of these politicians are working for the American people. Every single one of them are funded by these corporations. So it doesn't matter who you pick. It doesn't matter who you vote out. It doesn't matter who you vote in. If a person is to be voted in and they have a good heart, let's say all of a sudden the people realize, they start waking up and they say, okay, we're going to elect some constitutional people. Those people are going to be drummed out. They're going to be marginalized in a moment. It's not going to take long at all to find some way to scandalize them, some way to drive them out of office, some way to marginalize them, make them look like morons, make them look like backwood hicks, make them look like religious fanatics. And if they can't marginalize them, then they're going to do them in. The third option, of course, is that they sell out. That's what they're going to try first, is buying them once they've reached office. But the point is, they're never going to be voted out of office. We're going to have career politicians, and we're going to have corporate politicians for the remainder of the lifetime of the United States. And the lifetime as we know it is not going to be much longer. So we really need to do something. We talked about solutions. There's not many possible solutions left, Becky. There's a few, but it's going to take all of the American people to do it, and I mean all of them. So we have to realize where we're standing in all of this, too. We have a lot of good Americans out there that are joining various groups. They're joining various organizations, and they say, yes, we need change. And yet, with the millions of Americans belonging to these groups, we still see no change. We still see nothing effective being done, being carried out against these people. We have to ask ourselves why this is.
Well, I have a couple of reasons why I believe that is, and I shared this with you, and I'll share it again. The listeners that listen in frequently and join us on the show, they've heard my discussion on three things: subordination, complacency, and fear. Those three factors are killing us. The other thing is that we have been so infiltrated by trolls and by government operatives and informants. They're copping pleas because they don't want to go to prison on for some charge. We are in serious dismay within the groups, and everybody out there that cannot lay your ego and your pride aside and quit trying to run a show that you have no capability of running as far as being the leader in these groups and maintain some type of positive movement instead of friction, we're done. There's nothing. We're not going to be able to do anything. We're all going to sit here, and I'm going to listen to the chatter, the oath keepers saying they're going to adhere to their oaths. We took an oath to defend, blah, blah, blah. I'm sick of the lip service. Listen, you're not doing anything but bragging about the fact that you took an oath if you're not going to stand up for America and organize and become the exemplary leader in your group and bring others together with groups in your area and in your state. We can't keep trying to connect across the board being in Texas and trying to have a strong affiliation with somebody in New York. We all need to collectively work on our states, in my opinion. The other thing that is a serious issue here is I think that the vets across the board probably feel like the Patriots won't stand up and stand behind them. They've been brainwashed into the subordination since boot camp, and they hold honor, whether they know it or not, and they're still subordinate to the ranks of command. Now, this is not a commander-in-chief. This is a mole. He is a usurper. He was placed. He was not voted into office. His destiny was to be placed in this seat. And across the board, you can try to wake up the dead all day long, and the trolls will attack you. Listen, I'm going to tell you like Jesus did. Let the dead bury the dead and move on. You find the people, the real patriots, the people who are awake, who take the time to do the research and educate themselves and not try to spew statutes out of a Constitution or amendments or the Bill of Rights that they've never even read. They're just repeating something that someone else told them, and they were like, yeah, okay, right, and they're out there trying to hold a viable or a legitimate argument about government and how the Constitution works when they, in fact, don't even know what it says, and they make fools of themselves. And then they misguide or mislead other people with misinformation, and that's where we're at, Eric. I don't know how to do anything more than we've done. I do this show. We do it 5, 6, sometimes 7 days out of the week. I started a constitutional think tank, Know Your Constitution, for your state, Know Your Bill of Rights for your state. We have scholars that have stepped up and said, hey, we'll educate these people, just send them to us. I still can't get them to go, brother.
Yeah, we've got a lot of things working against us. One of the things that we have working against us is, you mentioned trolls earlier. A lot of people may not realize this, but the government actually hires. Now, this is the military, this is the NSA, and they are working in conjunction with the British government. They actually have a joint program going on with the British government where they have hired tens of thousands of people to troll comment sections. Now, a lot of people might think that sounds ridiculous, but no, it's not ridiculous at all. It's been in effect for well over a decade, and it's been it's so effective that they continue to pour hundreds of millions of dollars into this program, and they have enough trolls, actual trolls, sitting in the comments sections of Facebook, of YouTube, any forum that is going to be anti-government agenda. They sit there to try to intentionally make these people, patriots and constitutionalists look like morons and fools, tin-hatted morons. So this was a lot of people, Americans, in my opinion, are lazy. We've gotten lazy. We're too busy watching the Kardashians and Honey Boo Boo to want to even care about what's going on in the real world. We're living in an actual matrix, and we have a matrix being drawn up around us, and we don't even see it. Our politics are not real. Our television programming is exactly that. It's nothing more than programming. So all of this is being done for a reason, and then they control the social media as well. They have a number of means by which they control the social media, and this is all being done through our military and our intelligence agencies. So take 911, for instance, in YouTube. You can go to YouTube and you can pull up any 911 video that's got details on it, a couple 100,000 views or more, sometimes as low as 50,000 views or more. And you're going to find the same people in video after video after video after video after video, sitting in the comments section. I've personally researched these people. I can tell you who a number of them are. Their names, for instance, go to any 911 video and go down to the comments sections, and you're going to find names such as Neo Morpheus, You Stupid Moron, that's another one, John B. Bunker. Now, notice the name. Now, when people sign up on YouTube, they generally are signing up, most normal people, are generally signing up to YouTube for a number of reasons. They're either going to post videos or they want to comment in the sections. They're researching, they're doing this or that, trying to network with people. They don't pick that sort of a name. They pick a regular name, they pick their own name, they might pick another name, but when you have names like John B. Bunker, then you know that that person is there for a specific reason. But I don't go by names. You know, that's rather shallow. I go by a number of things. And first thing we need to realize, when Ed Snowden released thousands of documents, thousands of classified NSA documents, most Americans didn't blink an eye. They said, oh, well, that's cool, and they turned the channel. What Americans should be doing is digging through those classified documents that were leaked and find out what they actually tell us. And that's where we find out that the NSA government are hiring trolls by the tens of thousands to sit on these comment sections. So we have a verifiable fact that this is happening. The second thing, another thing that was leaked by Snowden, I have their actual part of their training. I have the training slideshow that is actually a college-accredited course.
Wow.
These trolls and these moles actually are educated people, and they have to take these training courses in order to properly know how to troll and how to mole. Now, anybody that wants to get in touch with us, I can get them this training manual. I can get them the classified documents. And this training manual this slideshow is classified, by the way. All of these documents are classified. Now, one thing that they teach us, I've gone through this training intensively. I've studied it intensively. I've studied their MK Ultra program. I've studied their mind control programs, and so I have a good handle on the psychology that they've been using for decades. Now, when I'm going through this training slideshow, though, there's some very apparent things. When you're trying to debunk facts, let's face it, facts cannot be debunked. If it's raining outside and a debunker comes along and says, well, no, it's not raining, well, he just looks like an idiot. Nobody pays any attention to him. So you can't debunk facts.
Wow.
If you go to the 8th slide, you're going to see in their slideshow, they say, we are creating cyber magicians. Now, when you go to the 15th slide, it tells you that what they're doing is finding a way to replace the truth with a lie, so that they have to make they have to make the truth look like a lie, and then they have to make a lie look like the truth. Now, when you go a little further, they go on to explain that since the truth cannot be debunked, you do all of this simply by disrupting. Now, we have some very interesting things going on. I have a particular thread that I refer people to, a particular video that I refer people to that we've been working on YouTube to expose these trolls. Some of these people, if you go into their accounts, you'll see they've been there 6, 7, 8, and 9 years, employed by the government to do this very thing. They can't debunk any of the facts behind 9/11. For instance, many people aren't even aware that Dr. Niles Harrit, he's a Dutch chemist. Niles Harrit and a team of 8 other scientists have gone and examined some of the dust from 9/11. And they've come out with a paper that's peer-reviewed, and the peer review can't be debunked. It states that nanothermite is actually found in the World Trade Center dust. Of course,
yes,
the nanothermite,
I've seen that.
Yes, and the nanothermite would have been used to actually cut the beams. It's not the explosive that would have been used. And, of course, they didn't test for other explosives. They did test for the nanothermite. They found both burnt and unburnt nanothermite. So, how do these trolls then debunk the nanothermite findings from a team of 9 scientists and their peer reviewer?
Wow. Hey, Eric, I've got a young lady that has a question for you. I'm going to bring in Chris. She's had her hand up for a bit. She's got me locked in chat. Chris, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes,
Chris,
absolutely. Hi, Becky.
Okay. Welcome.
I am fired up. I love your guest. I want, everybody mentions the Northwoods and Operation Paperclip. I have another one I want to ask you about, sir.
Yes.
What do you know about Project Pegasus? That's one of my questions.
Project Pegasus.
I don't hear anything. He's gone.
Eric, are you still there?
Oh.
Did we lose you? Eric?
Wow. I'm here.
Well, that's the government giving him some grief on his end today. Eric, if you can hear us, brother, I need you to call back in. We've lost you completely. You have no audio. Please call back in at 929-477-3565. And possibly, if you can, try to use a landline. Maybe we'll get a better connection. Okay. He's dropped. That's a very good question, Chris, and I'm anxious as well to hear his answer on that. I'll have to watch the board here and see where he... Yes, sir. Hello?
Did he call back in?
No, I thought I heard something, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
No.
I just wondered why it dropped when I asked that question, because nobody ever talks about it, rarely.
Let me see who this is. 361, you're on live. Who have I got? Hello, it's area 361.
Hello, Becky. How you doing?
I'm good. Is this Rudy?
This is.
Hey, brother, have you been listening to the show?
No, I just tuned in. I got caught up in dinner over here with the family and stuff like that, and I didn't catch the whole show, but I just said, hey, I want to talk to Becky today.
Hey, Rudy, this is an archive you're really going to want to listen to. I mean, the information that Eric is delivering today is just gobsmacking information. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And a couple of the things that he gives affirmation to really piss me off. It just further angers me that America has not risen up to handle our responsibilities in a manner of resolution rather than face the revolution that I see coming. It looks like I've got Eric back on. Eric, are you with us, brother?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I mean, that Skype you've got going on there is giving us some serious issues tonight. Chris had a question for you about Pegasus, Operation Pegasus. Can you answer her question?
Project Pegasus.
Okay.
Yes.
Project. Okay.
Project Pegasus. I don't have any inside information on myself personally, but I do know that it was supposed to be associated now with DARPA, and I don't. Yes, and it's got to do with space-time continuums and that sort of thing. But and I'm sure that they've got advancements that we will never find out about. That's for sure. But yeah, it does seem like a legitimate project, and it does seem as though they've been working on this for a number of decades, and so that's about all I can actually say about it. Though, any knowledge, but yes, it seemed to be a legitimate project, and it's under DARPA.
Okay. And my second question is basically what's happened over the last, week about FAA or FCC FCC taking over everything, and I feel and see this net cast that we're all inside the spider's web. There is no getting out. There's no, I don't know. It's just so vast, and late as of the night that it was introduced, that they were announced that it had gone through, I started seeing that a lot of movies that were I've never seen before, but they're older, with Mr. Snowden and The Fifth Element or Fifth Estate and Citizen 4 started playing, and I thought, well, he dropped a lot of bombshells, and one I caught at the very end, and he said something, and it just gives me shivers just even thinking about what he said, that we're being categorized. We are being categorized into...
Yes, that's very true.
Okay, so some people will go, is it more than FEMA Region 1 through 5? Or is that encapsulated with the... Excuse me?
It's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wow,
go ahead.
Nothing, I had something on my end. It's okay.
I heard that. That was electronic interference.
Yeah, I heard it.
So, yeah. As far as FEMA is concerned and our categorization, yes, we're certainly categorized. And let's just say, to make it simple for everybody to understand, if you are a patriot, if you believe in the Constitution of the United States, if you're vocal, if you are vocal against the government agenda, you're going to be targeted, that's for sure. There's no way around it. You're going to be categorized. If you're a religious person, if you are a Christian, if you are Jewish, you're going to be targeted. If you are a person that believes in events, prophecy, that sort of thing, then if you believe in the mark of the beast, you're going to be targeted. In the 1990s, the FBI put out a flyer, and I actually I probably dig this up in my files. I believe I've still got it. But I've seen this flyer, and they were passing it around all over Arizona and other states, and they were advising people to inform on their neighbors. And some of the telltale signs were if they talked too much about politics, if they believed about the Constitution, if they talked about end-time prophecy, then the FBI wanted to know. They wanted people to call in and get on their neighbors. So, yeah, we've been categorized for a very long time, and let me explain how this is going to work, too.
Okay, yes, thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize what's going to happen, and I have a lot of friends that are in patriot movements and militia movements, and they believe one day that there's going to be this massive confrontation and that they're going to be able to actually put up an effective fight against the government. But that's not how this... let me tell you something. The government, the intelligence agencies know exactly what's going on. They know exactly how people are planning to fight. So what they're going to do, they have a number of lists made out, and one day, one night, 3 o'clock in the morning, all across the United States, you can count on 5,000 to 10,000 people, probably closer to 10,000 to 12,000 people, having their doors kicked in and being arrested all of a sudden without a shot going down. And if the shot does go down, it's going to be the person they're invading. That's how this fight is going to go down. Now, that's the first. Okay, that's the first list.
Okay.
We're going to have a second for that. Now, the first list, what's that going to do? That's going to take out the dangerous leaders. That's going to take out the most vocal ones, the ones that have the most influence, the most pull. Their lieutenants, people that are going to follow them, people that are going to them. That's who's going to be arrested that first night.
I guess that's going to be me then, isn't it, brother?
Yeah, you'll have very vocal people. You'll have the leaders and their closest followers being arrested that night. Now, we have a second list and a third list. The second list is going to go down pretty much the same, but it's going to be a little while after that. When the people in the first list are arrested, it's going to be a wake-up call and a smack in the face to a lot of people. It's going to bring some division, but there's going to be a lot of quiet as well. It's going to shut up a lot of people. It's going to intimidate a lot of people into inaction. So this second list is going to go down, though. A lot of them will be killed, but most of them, a lot of them will stand trial for this or that. It's any type of trumped-up, mocked-up charge from treason to what have you, terroristic threatening. They'll make them look like terrorists, that's for sure. And a lot of these people are going to stand trial. They're going to be put in prison. They're going to be in undisclosed locations in many cases. They're going to be tortured to give up other names. And that's how that second list is going to go down. Some of them will eventually be bought off or tortured off, put into re-education camps, and eventually let back out into society. The third list, when this goes down, it's going to be, and all of these lists are going to have, you can count on at least 10,000 people. The third list that goes down, these are going to be people that are still vocal, people that are still caught whispering. By that time, whispering will be equated to being vocal. when this list goes down, people are going to be put into, most of these people, the families will be broken up, men will be put into one camp, women will be put into another camp, the children are going to be taken away, families broken up, and they are going to be re-educated. Some of them will be put into prison. Some of them are not going to break or crack. But the majority of them will eventually be let back out into society. And, of course, this will make our government look a little bit more benevolent to the rest of the sheeple out there. But that's how things are going to come about. That's how they're going to be carried out. So I think there's a warning. You know, the people, there's a lot of people sitting on their laurels right now, not wanting to unite to do good things that can bring about change, just waiting for the day that they have to take up arms. That day is not going to come to them. It's going to be a very nasty, quick, dirty affair. So they need to be prepared. They need to start working to make some sort of positive change now before that day comes.
I preach that constantly on this show, brother. Not only do I give the truth, I let the rage go, but I do preach resolution, not revolution. And I you know, on many occasions I've stepped up to the plate and just absolutely, with outrage, begged people to step up to the plate and stop being afraid. If you let fear control your life, and many that heard what you just said are second-guessing themselves at this very moment. They're going to back away because of fear. Listen, God did not give us a spirit of fear. He did not give you a spirit of fear. That is of the devil. There is nothing that man can do to you, nothing that man can do to you that isn't going to come anyway. You are being chased by death on a daily basis. From the minute you take your first breath, you begin to die. So if death is your fear, you need to get right with God or you know, and yourself. You need to ask yourself some serious questions, some spiritual questions. What are you really trying to hang on to in this earth? Because you cannot take it with you. But God gave you one life, and people, this is not living. We are not living. We are merely existing in torment and in slavery right now. Now, you know, for those that don't believe in God, I respect your position. For those who do, I'm giving you some great advice, and I would encourage you to look up Scripture.
Yes, ma'am.
You know?
Amen.
I mean, I hate to lay it out like that, but, I mean, you know, it has to be said. And we're all about telling the truth here and doing our research. Bill, are you on the line? I believe that's you that I've unmuted your mic, sir. Would you like to interact with this or interject something into this conversation?
I'm here. How are you guys?
We're good. Eric, Bill is one of my co-hosts from time to time on the show, and he's a very knowledgeable man who I hold in great respect. Bill, you've been on the show listening. Is there anything that you would like to add to the conversation?
Well, I guess from my particular point, I guess a lot of the dire warning is kind of moot points to me because, I mean, you know me, Becky. For a lot of the conversation tonight, listening to Eric here was kind of like listening to, you know, many nights that I've had things to say.
Sure.
Pretty much down the same line. You know, at this particular point, you know, and for quite a while now, you know, I look at this thing a little differently than most people. I don't normally have it part of the conversation, but the fact of the matter is that
looking at this whole thing that we're up against, I don't have all of these considerations and these fair plays and these concessions and compromises and these little strategies. Although I might be strategic, the fact of the matter is, the way I see it is that we've been overthrown by an enemy. We're not dealing with anything legitimate here. We're not dealing with anything that has any particular right to do a damn thing. We can't make changes. We can't accept concessions. It's as if we were any European country and Nazi Germany has invaded us, and then they said, "Okay, well, we're going to uphold your constitution and determine your way of living." I'm sorry, but no, this is our country. It's been invaded. It's been overtaken. This coup d'etat isn't a usurpation anymore. It's an overthrowing. It is an overthrowing. And being at the top of this list, if they want to run the first 10,000, if we sit back and do nothing and not give a shit and call it anything but what it is, yeah, that could happen. But I don't look at it that way. I look at a foreign invader, not sitting back and waiting for him to do something like that. We're at a point now where the only way that anything can be considered going forward or even staying where we are is to take our country back, to remove them outright, to be very organized. There are a lot of very powerful assets who have either been litmus or have retired from military, resource generals. I don't just mean guys that know how to handle personnel and have strategized battle plans, but full resource managers. The resources of our nation, for example. We sit upon those resources. We can control those ourselves if we get the organization and the unification and simply do it. If we just sit back and are reactionary or feel hopeless, like, oh, this is what they're going to do, this is what we have to react to, this is what we have to live with, I don't see it that way. Granted, if we do nothing, absolutely, that can occur, and it likely would. They would prefer nothing better than to have a surrender where they only have to take out a few thousand of us. But there's a lot more than a few thousand of us, and that's why I've always pushed those community preparedness teams. You want to go out throughout the nation and take 10,000 people out? Well, over here, 10,000 people is a small neighborhood. You're going to come into a neighborhood to get 3 or 4 people, and if you have strong and organized teams, it's not going to be any easy task. I don't care if you do it in one night or 10 nights. If you spread yourself throughout the United States, it has to be a complete, total act of war where these steps and procedures don't get to occur because it becomes a war instantly. And I think that we need to redress all of our problems, but we need to have the unification and we need to have the weight and force where there's consequence to not listening to us and give these guys a chance to back down and out. Now, we know they won't, but there's something that can be accomplished. Some of these fools working for them, pretending to be senators and congressmen and administrators or what the hell ever, some of them are going to see their only light in bailing and kissing our ass and being our informants and siding up with us. There's going to be a fight at some point anyway, because they've overthrown a nation where trillions, well, hundreds of trillions of what they consider dollars are at stake and the power of the world. So there's going to be something, but we have to stand up as if it's ours and not theirs. It's really just the only way it's going to work. I really don't care to compromise it any other way. There's no safe way. There's no careful way to do this. Ultimately, there are smart ways and plenty of them. There are smart approaches and proper approaches to a lot of things. But a compromising, safe negotiation or compromise, no. It can't be reached. It can't be done.
I agree with you. Brother. I have got someone who has been on hold for a very long time with their hand up. I would like to ask area code 509. Who do I have? 509.
This is Thomas Mick.
Hey, Thomas. How you doing, brother, man? Eric, say hi to Thomas. Thomas is also one of our brothers who is very knowledgeable and has from time to time come on the show with great wisdom. Thomas, what would you like to interject to the conversation, sir?
Well, as of the first of this month, I've changed gears. Before that, I was in an educational and trying to get people to do similar to what Bill's doing. Come under the American banner, come together, and find a solution. Before that, I was trying to address the issue of the fraudulent 17th Amendment. But on March 1st, I made a decision because with the continuous stream of Islamists that are being inserted into communities all over America, Somalians, Sudanese, and they're all Muslim. They're not bringing over Christian refugees by any means. They're bringing Somalian fighters and others into our republic. They're also, as he pointed out with the lists, they've got this all planned out so that they know that by and large the American people are going to sit around and try to play fair, and they're counting on that. They want us to wait for that first shot, and they're deliberately not trying to make it appear that they fired it. I assert that they did decades ago, but for the militias and the commanders of the militias that are presently standing down in the face of a Mexican invasion on our southern border and other threats that are real, credible, dangerous threats to the life, liberty, and property of the members of their community, they're all waiting around for that raid at 3 o'clock in the morning before they start shooting back. And I think, Eric, I think you can agree with me, that is the wrong time to contemplate firing back. Because most people won't, like you pointed out, if that scenario plays out, most of the people that are rated on that list, of which I really surely believe that I'm one of them, we won't have a chance in hell to respond. They'll do a dynamic entry. They'll fire at anybody that's a threat to them, and they'll take that prisoner, and they'll hit you with overwhelming force. So unless you've got a garrison with 24-hour guards that are pretty damn good, you're pretty well done if you wait around for that day. So what I've done is I'm calling on American people. First of all, I lay out what the sole purpose of government is to secure our natural rights. That is it in a nutshell. One friggin' purpose for our government is to secure our natural rights. They're our servants. If they're not, if they're attacking our rights, they are enemies of the Constitution and to us, and they need to be removed from office. You don't wait for the first shot. We've been invaded. We have been infiltrated. The enemy is in control of our infrastructure. He's in control of the military. He's in control of the police. He's in control of our entire defensive infrastructure. And Obama's gutting it because the Chinese want to come in here and, well, let's just say they want to be paid back for all that debt that the liberals have been borrowing.
They don't get a penny.
No. Well, what I suggested is that American combat veterans, particularly non-coms and officers, form up 5-member guerrilla teams, fire teams, and start harassing and fighting this enemy, both on the Islamic front as well as on the globalist front. They should target and recover, restore their own local jurisdictions, their own communities or towns or cities or counties back under American control, and then move out from there. If everybody in the sound of my voice formed up a team in your local area and started to do this, coming like a beehive, pestering them little bastards. Their little plans for all of this neat little orderly, we'll do the step A, and then we'll do step B, and then we'll do step C. You're going to throw a monkey wrench into all that shit because they're not relying upon you fighting. But screw the people that say, oh, I'm going to wait for them to fire first. Which one in your ranks is going to die from that shot? Are you willing to be that person? You want to stand out in front and take that shot and then hope that those guys behind you don't break and run? Or do you want to stand up as an American, join with other Americans, and start fighting the war that's been going on against us for decades? Sorry, Becky, I don't mean to get too loud on your show, but...
No, that's all right. You know, those community preparedness teams, by the way, are filled with people who are already planning for that, Thomas. I think that's probably your next step is to actually, I mean, you've posed that you'd like that idea. I'm telling you that idea already exists in practice. And now, given what you're saying and your stance and your belief, and I know your beliefs, and I know that you're serious about this, I think it's time you stepped into one of those and realized that there's a whole network of people, which on this particular show right now we shouldn't go into great detail on, who are already polished and prepared and ready to do these things.
Well, you understand, Bill, since I made my announcement, I have been contacted, and I'm not going to reveal who or where, but I have already been contacted by people that are both doing it as well as others that are probably doing it right now. They're forming up. They're getting their people. It's happening. They're not going to have
I've been talking with you about this for months. Right. I've been talking with you about this for months, and you know that's the only belief that I have is our safety and our security, and it's only going to come from that strength. That's the only way it exists.
There is no other option. There is no other option.
There isn't.
We fight or we die. One of the quotes that I wrote yesterday. What was it? I says, we're going to lose. If Americans don't stand and fight this war, it's going to be bloodier.
Of course it is.
The blood will be spilt in the camps where there's no longer any possibility of resistance.
Let me ask Eric a question. Eric, you've listened to these two gentlemen, and you worked inside of Intelligence. What is your opinion, sir, on the situation and the possible resolution by this means?
Well, yeah, it's been a very interesting conversation, and let me say that I certainly agree with a lot of the sentiments here, and let me say that I agree with Thomas that this nation was overthrown decades ago. I believe this nation was overthrown with the murder of John F. Kennedy by our own intelligence. And you'll trace the presidency from that point on, from the death of Kennedy. Johnson certainly had a lot to gain. At the time, Johnson was about to be arrested. Even though he was vice president of the United States of America, he was caught in several scandals and probably would have gone on to be arrested for many things, including murder, contracting people for murder, several potential scandals, and he had a lot to gain. He also gained the presidency of the United States. Now, then, move on to After Johnson, well, we had several things occur. Let's look at some of the presidents we've had. Richard Nixon. Don't realize this, but it was the Bush and Harriman people that sponsored and financed Nixon all through his political career. Nixon was a Harriman man. He actually worked for Harriman before he was a politician. And Harriman is the one that groomed him and financed him, brought him up through the system. We have Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford was on the committee that investigated the Warren Commission that investigated the murder of Kennedy, and he helped to whitewash the affair. So he was certainly an insider. So we have Bush's, we have, of course, when Reagan was elected president, Bush Sr. was his vice president, and it wasn't long after that there was an attempted assassination that basically put George Herbert Walker Bush in charge of the nation. And we know what occurred with him, Poindexter, Ollie North, and et cetera. They just continued to carry out their agenda of importing drugs, breaking down the nation. Under George Bush as president then, when he became president, we had the closure of a lot of U.S. military bases right here on U.S. soil and foreign nations. We closed down a lot of our military bases. Then we come up through Clinton. Clinton is just another Bush ally. They're like father and son, George Herbert Walker Bush and Clinton. Under Clinton, not only continued to close down our military bases and streamline military, he was taking the number of military people that we were losing and putting them into domestic police forces. Now, let's look at this for a second. We, under Clinton, our domestic police forces increased by hundreds of thousands. What we have here, we have basically we have chess players, we have generals that are looking around and they're looking at the biggest possible threats at their plans, coming against their agenda to break it down. And they're not viewing that threat as coming from without, but from within. So, instead of beefing up our military, we're now beefing up our domestic police forces, and that's continued up through from Clinton to now. I also agree with Thomas that, you know, when that day comes, when they 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning start kicking in doors using dynamic entry, they are going to shoot any possible threat, anything that can be possibly deemed as a threat as they're coming through that door. That's going to happen. And when they come in at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, when everybody's sleeping, you can bet that they're going to have everybody scoped out. They're going to know what time you go to bed. They're going to know how many people are in your house. They're going to know all of this ahead of time. So they're going to pick.
Boy, I'll screw them up. Hey, Eric, I don't mean to cut you off, brother, but my listeners will get a chuckle out of this. They know the hours I keep, which are all kinds of hours. So that's going to screw them up where I am.
Well, you know, this community preparedness teams also are linked. They are linked and calmed, and they will become more linked and more calm the more organized and the more unified we all become. So crashing a house at 2 or 3 in the morning, we have to make it very clear that that's not going to be a safe bet. Now, they can come in and shoot up a whole house, but when you have an entire neighborhood or several communities on ready go, and they want to come up, and they're going to take exception to somebody pulling that, It's not going to be an easy proposition. The proposition for them is going to be, wow, I guess we have to do a full-scale war starting now, or we have to find a different tack. But coming from my position, the only resolve is to remove them. You know, we can go back to 1968, we can go back to 1963, we can go back to 1871, we can go back to November of 1860 if we want. Regardless, this long train of abuses has come to this point now where, okay, we're not going to take any more. And not only are we going to settle for, like, stopping here, they've pushed us so far that we're going to go back to everything that's been stolen and take it all back.
Yeah.
Problem.
All of it. Every freaking bit of it. They're banking the whole thing. So China, they can want all they want. Their criminals made deals with our criminals. They threw their shit into the ring, and they've been living high on the hog for it at our expense. Well, they're going down, and which is one of the things that Kennedy actually initiated. And we can put all of these things in, the Bay of Pigs and all these other things. You know, they start wars, and it's all about money. But at the end of it all, he and John and Robert Kennedy, were putting an end to the bank. They weren't just starting to print treasury notes. What they did is that they put the process through for the abolishment of the Federal Reserve and their big gain. So that's something that we finish when we shut this crap down and we remove this overthrow from our nation. We finish the job and we do it completely.
Yeah,
there's no compromise. There's no settling back. There's no little thing where, like, wow, I hope I'm going to be safe at 3 in the morning. We got to get enough teams together, and we have to have the communication links together so that any step forward for any reason, there's a cost for them to do that.
Well,
they're going to have whole communities coming out and saying, "What are you harassing our neighbor for? Go back in the house. It's none of your business." Yes, it is our business. I'm sorry. Where's your warrant? What's your cause? And what's your call? In the process or in the meantime, you have hundreds or thousands of other people in a reasonably close vicinity to that who are being called to do something.
Yeah, the only problem I have with that, though, is that intelligence to work with. They already have. The only problem that we have with this is that they're already going to have this intelligence, and they have the intelligence.
We know that. So do we. We have intelligence as well. In fact, we have some of their intelligence assets. That's something we won't talk about tonight.
Let me draw this out for you for a moment. First of all, they've got all of this scoped out. They know all about the programs that you've got going on. So they're not going, when they come to make a dynamic entry, they are not going to make a show of it to where everybody can see them coming, that they have time to organize. They're going to be in, they're going to be out in a minute. And
well, see, that's the point. That's the whole point. That's what the organizing now. They better make those dynamic entries tonight because they don't have too many more weeks to do this before there's no dynamic stand they can take about going in and entering anywhere, because anywhere they try to move with force is going to be scrutinized soon enough.
Well, you know, they're certainly going to have all of this scoped out, and they'll have all the intelligence. They'll know who's involved. They'll know who's not. Now,
yeah, but we know that they have this intelligence. What are you saying? Are you saying that they have this intelligence so that we should be careful and we should, like, draw back and be, like, really good about how we let them run our country?
No,
I don't understand.
I think that we should be intelligent about what we're doing here and realize that they know what we're planning. They know every word that we're speaking right now. They know about every community project that might be going on, and they will certainly take steps against it. Let me tell you,
we know
they
that.
have to send a missile.
We know that.
We're
abundantly aware that we're being listened to right now. Matter of fact, all the better.
We have resources within them as well, and that's the other thing. They're a little bit cocky about the fact that everything they're standing on isn't intent on holding their feet up.
Now, do you think
including their own military?
Do you think they have missiles at their command?
Yep.
I'm sorry, say that again?
They have drones.
Do you have missiles? Do they have missiles at their disposal?
Yep.
Of course they do.
Hellfire. They have Hellfire missiles on drones above my head right now.
Do they have sonic weaponry at their disposal?
Yep.
Do they have EMP arsenals at their disposal?
Yeah, the EMPs work several ways, and I'm a technology guy, so this EMP thing and us being subject to this type of circuitry and an electronic grid is already a big mistake. Now, there's some people out there who are well past this, including the people with our government, and we know that they have this, and it's going to affect them as well.
Bill, can they take out your...
Well, they have hardened it. Yeah.
Can they
to be captured?
I have a couple of hands up, guys. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ed. You're breaking up, bud.
Yeah, you're breaking up, buddy. I really want to hear what you're saying.
Okay.
Eric?
Here's the deal. They can take out your communications in a moment. They can send a missile if they want to. There's 1,000 ways to get past all of these things. Now, am I saying sit back and do nothing? Of course not. I believe there's an answer. I truly believe there's an answer. But I believe that we have...
Oh, wow.
Out in the wind. You're out in the wind, and it's breaking you up.
No, that's me out in the wind. I'm up on the hill.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Here's what we have to do. Here's what we have to understand. The first thing that we need to do, we have to realize where they're facing this power from. The bottom line of their power is our local and state judges that will not rule in favor of the Constitution. And then we have our local politicians. We have our local politicians that will legislate in ways that further destroy our Constitution. Now, we do have the ability to arrest people, okay? So here's what we need to do. We need to band together as kind of people.
I can't believe you actually even said that. We haven't elected anybody in years. You think Obama, do you honestly think that a majority of the American people voted for Barack Obama for a second term?
I think you're misunderstanding something that I said. And no, I don't think that we have any power at all over who in office.
Okay. Okay. For a second there, I thought you said that the solution is voting.
No, you need to hear what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, you're breaking up quite a bit, so it's a little hard sometimes.
Well, we have the power. We have the power to put them under arrest. We have power to arrest them for treason. We have the power to arrest our judges that are judging against the Constitution. We have the power to arrest our legislators for treason. Now, the very first thing before we decide that we're going to pick up guns or do this or do that and create, all of the neighborhood things that they've got 10,000 ways of disrupting, we need to try the proper way first. The law tells us we have the power to arrest these people. The Constitution gives us that right. The law gives us that right. The law specifically draws out what treason is. Now, if these people are guilty of treason, why are we not arresting them? That's
because the Justice Department and all of the infrastructure for arresting, detaining, and convicting any prisoners are under the control of the globalists. Now, there's a common law grand jury movement that is making some progress. However,
we don't have
considering the other dangers, such as the Somalis in Minnesota and in Colorado and in other parts of this country, not just Somalis, but Syrians, all kinds of Muslims. They're being imported by the tens of thousands into our communities.
Now,
and good luck arresting them. It ain't going to happen. And I don't think, and to be honest, I don't think this grand jury movement has the time to arrest all of the criminals that are in our governments, local, state, and federal. I just don't believe that that's possible.
Well,
I hope that it is. I hope that it is. I got a good friend. Yeah, we have no choice. We have to have force on the table. We have to use force, and then maybe once we start nipping them little bastards in the butt enough, maybe then they'll have some incentive to go to the table, and we can turn things around before it escalates too far. But without force, we're not going to go anywhere. They're going to entertain us. They're going to throw us a carrot. They're going to make us thinking we're making progress like they've done before. I've been watching these bastards all my adult life. I'm 59 years old. I've been watching this since 1973 with my eyes open. And I'm telling you right now, I do not believe for a second that we have a peaceful remedy left at this point in time. I believe that they exist, but they were never utilized properly.
I've got Rudy on the line. Rudy would like to say something. He's been trying to get in for about 10 minutes. Rudy, welcome to Rage Against the Regime, brother. Go ahead, rip it.
Hi, I've been hearing you guys talk, and I just want to say hi, Bill. How you doing, Mr. Thomas?
Hey, Rudy.
Got
Mr.
Shane
Brother
Walker
Eric
on the line.
Shane, how you doing, Shane? Becky, everybody. Well, I've been listening and stuff, and everybody makes some interesting points and conversation, and about the biggest thing right now that I'm worried about is my daughter. I think she's starting to want to date, and that really irks me. I don't know if you guys know how that feels, but oh my God, I feel that in the gut of my stomach. Well, no. He's Hispanic, which really pisses me off because I'm Hispanic too. But let me tell you, the reason that pisses me off is because that's something I can't control. And just like everybody has got their eyes open and they're wide awake, everybody's got to accept one thing. It's walking through a door, and that door is called death. That door is called death. You don't make your decision to walk your walk, talk your talk, without walking through that fucking door. That's all there is to it. Whatever you've done, you've made shoes for a living, if you've been a welder, carpenter, a builder, a politician, once you make that conscientious decision, know that the way of the warrior is only one way, and that is death. That is death. That is what you're reaching for. That is what you're reaching for with every battle, every argument, every conversation, if you're a warrior, that is the only outcome you're going to strive for, because why else would you step into that arena? Why else? Now, there's a couple of untapped resources I want to talk about. I heard about law, and I heard about this, and I heard about technology, and I heard about that. As far as I know, from time to time again, I see history repeat itself on many levels, from World War II to down at King Philip III when he rounded up the Knights Templar. I'm seeing a lot of stuff all rolled into one. And that's pretty cool. That's cool because I'm going to witness history. I'm going to be part of history. And I'm not expecting to walk away from this unscathed or without passing through that door. And if you think for 1 second that there's some way that you're going to come out of this, I think you're highly mistaken, because if you get put on a on a list, some kind of watch list, we're going to pick you up, we're going to round you up type of shit, don't even worry about coming back. If you're worried about whatever, I'm sorry. Just step back, walk away, create a new identity for yourself, move to Costa Rica, wherever. By the way, there's like at least 5,000 lily pads, which are satellite bases that the UN has created from 2000 to 2008. But what I'm trying to say is all this talk about legal and we want to be law-abiding and stuff like that, yeah, that works for nobody, because the people who secured the country of this great nation did not get sanctioned by England to go against England. We've been infiltrated. Everybody knows that. If you want to say this and that and still be politically correct in some way, shape, or form, well, fuck you very much. because you're on the wrong fucking sheet of music. And I tell you what, there's not going to be no freaking arresting. You're going to arrest somebody to let them out later, like at Guantanamo Bay? Are you out of your mind? Did you not study this fake history that the 1% of the world studied, that they have built ammunition generation after generation against you? Did we not learn something? I don't care how smart and intelligent and you think you are. There's only one way about it. We're going to walk through that door. Now, whether or not your name is worthy enough to be mentioned by your children, it's up to you. It's only up to you. Now, just throw any notion that you have in your mind that you think you're going to walk into something like this and be part of some list and somehow or another get erased. No, the only way it's going to get erased is if they've done you in. And if you're going to think that they're going to kick your door in and you're going to wait for that first shot or whatever, go ahead and turn yourself in right now, but it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. You're not going to come. There's not going to be court. If you're going to go to court, you're going to be screwed. You're going to be screwed because they're going to have all this all this information against you, some trumped-up charges. You might as well put you in the same category as the Grandmaster, what was his name, Mike Templar. Somebody
David
knows.
Duke.
Anyway.
David Duke.
Are you talking?
On there.
Anyway, you're going to be trumped up on some charges for blasphemy, for kissing each other's bottoms, for praying to Baphomet, the head of John the Baptist. Whatever it is they're going to trump up against you, you're going to have to agree. And anybody who gets tortured has a breaking point because you're human. Yeah, they're going to squeeze whatever they want out of you. And that's fine because you're fucking human. That's all there is to it. There's nobody that's going to hold out indefinitely. That's not humanly possible. It's not humanly possible. We prove that time and time and again with our military in SEER school. You're not going to go in and say, I'm going to beat this. No, it's designed for you to fail. Just get it out of your head. If you're going to do it, just go in. Walk right into that fire. Take your shoes off. Make yourself at home because that's what it's going to be.
Let me show you a little problem that we have here with all of this.
We have a lot of problems.
Yes, we certainly do. We certainly have a lot of problems. First of all, we have to consider you have a daughter that's beginning to date. What kind of country do you want to leave to that daughter? What kind of country do you leave to your grandchildren?
That's where you're missing the point here because I said we, I mean everybody. Because there's not going to you're failing to see this. You're failing to see this on the real spectrum. We're going to lose our battle on earth, but our victory is in heaven. And I've got to prepare for that because you know why? I think Christianity, to live, is to be in Christ, to die is gain. Everybody knows that. But look at the Muslims. They're preparing for the end of the world just like we are. Coincidentally, it's all falling into place right now. Everything that we do, they've got accounted for it. They've got deception. We told the truth. They're coming in infiltrating us, and we're trying to find a legal way about it.
You cannot deal with lawless individuals who set themselves above and secluded from the letter of the law. You cannot deal with them on a lawful basis, period.
There's only one way to deal with them. Look at Leviticus 27:29. That'll tell you exactly how you need to deal with them, exactly how. And I believe in the Bible because it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed in the thousands of years it's been around. You can argue your point. You can sound as intelligent as you want, but the way of the warrior is still death.
We've got a little NSA interference. They're ruffling paper and making noises, so
yeah,
you
they're going to
bear
die too.
with me.
They're going to die too.
Yes.
They're going to die too once they've been used and abused and kicked to the curb like the whores that they are. They hoard themselves out. They sold themselves. They sold the very thread, the very fabric that is supposed to be American. They sold themselves out to anybody else, to everybody else that's not them.
Well,
that's all there is to
it. Listen, I would like to ask Eric. You brought up Leviticus. And Eric is a pastor. He's a very wise man. That's why I brought him on. Brother, please don't feel like they're attacking you. they're raging and they're angry.
I agree with him.
And,
I agree 100%. Don't get me wrong, brother. Don't get me wrong. I'm sorry, but I just
no. Rudy brought up Leviticus, and so Eric, are you familiar with that scripture?
Yes. What was it again?
Leviticus 27:29.
Leviticus. Would you care to read it?
Actually, right now I'm using the bathroom outside, so kind of can't right now. Yeah, sorry,
you're
brother.
Man,
sorry.
I love it. Right here on Rage Against the Regime. Everybody, Rudy's outside. He's in a wee. All right, go ahead.
Oh, Dennis knows. Trust me. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Basically, what it says in a nutshell: anybody who's hell bent on destruction, that's all they bring to the table. And there's no way to reason. There's no way to ransom. You have to be put to death.
That's been tried for the last 60 years. That has been tried and tried.
Hello.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
Who's saying hello? Who's saying hello?
That would be me, Shane.
Shane, what's going on?
Yeah, I didn't know I was on. Hell, I've been sitting here listening, texting Becky saying, hey, I think I'm on hold still.
No, I unmuted you.
Okay. I hear a lot of people, getting upset saying that they don't believe, that they can come in at 3 o'clock in the morning and, round everybody up.
They can certainly do that.
Absolutely, but it seems like I'm hearing people saying that they can't, saying that there's no way. I thought that's what I was hearing.
What we're doing is trying to discourage the defeatist talk as if all is lost, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's the impression that we get every time we hear that, is that it's a foregone conclusion, it's all been planned, and nobody can do shit about it. It's just going to happen.
You see, you're taking me entirely wrong. You're putting words into my mouth that were never said. I don't say anything about it. I say
referring to Bill
about it.
He's referencing
I wasn't saying that they can't do that. I'm just saying that given the fact that they can do a lot of things and that they've done thousands of things that they're not supposed to do already, that we'd be very well prepared for it, so that if they do choose to make such a move, that it is a consequence to them to do so.
I submit it's not going to be a consequence when they can disrupt your communication completely, and they can use missiles if they do.
We're going to have to agree to disagree.
I'm sitting here thinking,
I disagree as well.
All these people disagree with all this, but how many people disagree thinking that Hitler couldn't do the same thing? And the technology now is 100 times better than it was then. And I mean, they did that. I mean, everybody says they don't have the force to do it. They don't have the technology to do it.
One at a time, gentlemen.
Resources ourselves too.
Yeah, why are you even on this call if it's all over? If we can't do shit,
I'm not saying it's
anyway.
all over.
Why the hell are you on this call?
I'm not saying it's all over, asshole.
Let me tell you what I believe is defeatist conversation. I believe it's defeatist to say that we've only got one solution, and that's to take up arms right now before they do. I believe that's defeatist. I believe that's defeatist because that in itself will accomplish what they want to do anyway. They want to destroy this nation from within.
They are doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are doing it now.
It's already killed. It's already done. It's over with.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell are you talking about?
Anyone that thinks that there's a system left is naive. There is no system left.
No.
You're not. But my point, the only reason I caught in is because of people saying that they can't do this. I don't believe that the fight's over with, and I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this guy's military intelligence. If they've got a playbook that knows our rules, you're already defeated if you're doubting them. Don't underestimate them and what they can do, what they have planned to do. I'm saying be better prepared than them. Take some of just heed some of this guy's advice. Listen to what he's saying.
Yeah, we're certainly not going to, and I certainly don't say don't do nothing. We have things that we can do. okay? But what we have to do is the things that we have to take the avenues that we have not taken yet, okay? We've been through
the only avenue we have left is to have the military in front of us to march to the White House, drag the senators out, drag the judges out, drag Obama out, the whole fucking regime, and try them all for fucking treason. But we're not going to be able to do that without the fucking military.
Now, we can do it. We can certainly do it as citizens. Now, here's
but we're
the
not
thing.
going to have the muscle to do it without the military. You're talking about, and I agree with what was said earlier. I mean, who's going to try them and all that stuff? That's why you have to have the military. I think we're going to have to. It's going to have to be a military tribunal because it's going to be treason against the United States and the Constitution. And you can't leave it to other senators or anybody else, or other Supreme Courts or anybody to do that shit. It's going to be left to the people or have a military judiciary.
Yeah, there's a number of things we can do. Now, the very first thing to do is to unite. And let me explain what I mean by this. We have a little group called the ACRP, the American Constitution Restoration Party. And there's only 200 people in this group, a little over 200. But we've been extremely busy, and we've been effective. We've been effective in a number of ways. One thing that we are attempting to do, we have written to hundreds and hundreds of groups. Now, we have hundreds of groups that are anti-government agenda. Now, here's the problem that we run into. What we're doing is suggesting that we unite. We've been writing patriot groups. We've been writing militia groups. We've been writing anti-illegal immigration groups. We've been writing to the 911 groups, 911 for Truth, Architects and Engineers for 9/11. We've been writing to every one of these groups and saying, look, we all have the same agenda here. We might be attacking different parts. We might be taking up different roles, but we have the same agenda. Stop a runaway government. We have to stop the runaway government. But here's the problem that we're running into. We have all of these groups that are led by leaders. Okay, we have leadership in all of these groups. What kind of leadership do we have, though? We have different types of leaders. We have the leaders out there that are going to network, and they're going to unite. They're going to consolidate. They're going to say, okay, I have my group, your group, we're sovereign groups, but we need to work together toward a common cause. Now, we have millions and millions of people within all of these groups. The problem is we don't have good leadership in these groups. We don't have the leadership that's saying, okay, I'm going to work with this group. I'm going to work with this group. We're not saying...
I agree with you on that. I definitely agree with you on that. And that is a main problem. That is one of the most main problems that there is getting every group together and organized.
Exactly. Now, here's what I suggest. One, to stop these groups. We need to stop supporting these groups, and we need to band together as United people, as United States citizens. Get rid of the group leaders. They're not going to join together for one reason or another.
Wait. Could you please repeat yourself? You broke up. Could you repeat? What we have to do is not do what?
Okay, what we have to do is band together. We have to stop supporting these groups that refuse to band together. We have to stop funding them. We have to stop sending them our money. We have to stop joining them. And we need to band together as people. Join groups that will come together with them. It's up to membership, all of these groups, to put the pressure on leadership to either join together with all of these other groups that are trying to fight the same thing. And if they can't do that, they're not going to fund them. They're not going to join them. They're going to quit. They're going to give them bad PR. They're going to move on. Most of these leaders are in leadership for one thing. They're getting your money. They're getting recognition. They're getting your money. We're sending them money. We need to stop that, okay? Some of these groups are headed by actual moles, people that actively work for the United States government covertly. And they are funded enough to draw enough people. I call every one of these groups catch-alls. That's all they are. There's a group for every United States citizen out there that believes in standing for freedom. There's a group that's going to draw them. And these are just catch-all groups intended to keep us divided. So we need to get rid of these group leaders. We need to get rid of these groups. We need to smarten up, and we need to band together as United States citizens. Now, through that, we do have millions of people. We do have the power then to go in and make these arrests, charge them with treason, remove them from the benches, remove them from power, remove them completely. We have small political parties, second, third, fourth, fifth-rate political parties that we could be beefing up, but we won't do that. We have not done that. If we remove the Republicans and we remove the Democrats and we stand these smaller political parties,
I mean, it's not Republicans and Democrats. It's all one world.
Yeah. It's not possible. It's not possible. I mean, you said so yourself. The plan. They've got all these different bases covered. But what you can do is you can educate the public on a foundation. This is what the foundation is. This is what everybody needs to know, because all the communication is going to be knocked out. Do you think somehow or another those 3 satellites that they launched in Russia are just for great cable in Russia? No. There's 3 for a reason. There's no reason else. You need 2 out of 3 to try to give you a good GPS. We all know that, but you need 3 properly to triangulate, and that's not just triangulate here on Earth. That's triangulate in space, because their intent is to knock out other satellites as well. This is communication on a level much bigger than what you can anticipate. This is something that people are counting out right now. You can just count out communication. You got to start with Plan B, because Plan A is not going to work. You got to give everybody a great foundation to start with. When all the communication goes down, all these little groups are going to have to go guerrilla again and repeat history. You got to repeat history with the revolution, with the guerrilla tactic. These guerrilla tactics, nothing else. It's going to be good old-fashioned boot to face, boot up your butt. And a lot of people don't want to realize, they don't want to acknowledge that, because we live in a great day where there's technology and we've got all these fourth-dimensional holograms where we can operate over a body with a hologram. We can turn it around and we can send the needle in here and there, the fourth ventricle and so on and so forth. But you know what? That dispel all that. Dispel that notion. Go back to boots on the ground, boot up the ass, and that's what it's going to come to. A lot of people don't realize that when you secure your own backyard, there's no need to march on Washington. There's no need to go fit 10 million people on a 10-mile piece of land for what?
I'm not agreeing.
That's not the real power. The real power is in the people. When you secure your own backyard, but nobody's going to know what to secure. Why? Because they're not been educated. Yeah, you're going to have people who don't want to do nothing because it's not going to motivate them. It's not going to fit their whatever it is, their philosophy, whatever irks them at that point in time. But guess what? They're going to know that if this is what's got to be done, we got to make it happen. And people are going to know once you educate the whole foundation, the whole charity, the whole group, the whole organization as a whole, this guy's not doing his job. We're going to remove him ourselves. They're gonna go ahead and get rid of all the rats. They're gonna get rid of all the insects, the cockroaches, within their own little groups, and it's gonna be down to guerrilla tactics, like you said, little groups harassing here and there. There's no way that everybody's gonna be able to talk to each other. What are they gonna do? Get on Facebook? I think not.
Wait, time out. I would like to say something. What you guys are missing is this, and this is very crucial. These congressmen do not live in Washington. They have homes that they retreat to.
There you go.
So they don't have an underground tunnel, a secured guard for exit, and the DOD across the street and the Pentagon across the street. So they're not secure in Washington. I agree with that. And to try to motivate financially and spiritually and in a manner to get enough people to surround Washington, we've already proven we fail at that miserably. The only time millions march on Washington, or when the blacks are up raising hell about how poor, downtrodden they are and they want equality, or the bikers, God bless my vets, get on their big bad iron horses and do this glory ride into Washington to pay honor to the wall and the fallen, which is a good thing. I'm not cussing that. But then they leave. They turn around and leave. They don't make a stand with a voice loud enough to shake the very foundation of D.C. to let them know we're coming if you don't shut this shit down. I mean, that is the most disheartening thing to me of everything that I've watched in the patriotic movement in the last 4 years, is that we can get millions of patriots to go pay honor to a marble wall and the fallen, and when they get there, they don't do anything but pat each other on the back, put each other's bike, give each other, congratulations and thanks for serving, and then they turn around, they get it in their cars, they get on their bikes, and they go back where they came from. What the hell,
Exactly.
People?
Imagine if those million people rolled up in there armed and said, enough is a fucking enough. Get the fuck out.
Even if they weren't armed, even if they just shook the very foundation with a loud voice, I'm talking every one of them screaming at the same time, the same damn thing, get out, you're finished, we're here, and we're not taking this anymore.
Yeah, and if you're not armed,
it would have made a
riot
difference.
squad come out and
But if
start
you're not
shooting with rubber
you
bullets.
got a million two people. You got 1,000,000.2 people. I guarantee you, a riot squad is not going to contain that. I know it's not going to happen. I'm saying that is the most disheartening to me, is that they ride in there, they can find the money to ride in on a glorified, look at my bike, I'm badass, I'm a vet, I'm going to go pay homage. But then they come home, they get on their keyboard, and they tell me what a badass they are and how they're going to uphold their oath to defend and protect foreign and domestic. No, you're not. Shut up. I'm sick of your lip service.
Becky,
go ahead.
You know what happens on a federal response to an attack on the district from the states?
That's not an attack. It's a right of speech.
No. What I'm saying though is any threat that they perceive to the District of Columbia, for instance, the Operation American Spring. I can kind of give you a clue as to what they did. They already tested this on MOM, the militia Montana, back in the early 90s. What they did is they're monitoring our signals traffic, for one thing. So they're looking at all of the people that communicated on the Operation American Spring website, and all of the subsidiary groups they followed, because they had a list of the members and the people that were contacting the Operation American Spring site. So now they did their due diligence, and they had forces along the freeways from the concentrations of traffic. And so if it had turned into an armed fight, they would have been met long before they got to the District of Columbia, and they would have been stopped. And so any assault against the District of Columbia is just foolishness.
Becky brought up a very important point. These congressmen, these senators, and these judges, they have homes. They live locally. Now, I'd like for you all to consider this for just a moment. If all of our groups were to band together, whether the group leaders do or not, but the people, the membership within these groups that care about the Constitution, I'm talking about the Oath Keepers, I'm talking about the constitutional sheriffs, I'm talking about the militias, I'm talking about all of the patriot groups, I'm talking about all of the illegal immigration groups. If the millions of members of these groups would just stop supporting the leadership and start supporting one another, we could go to these homes. We could go, instead of taking thousands of armed people to do this and to do that, we could take these same thousands of people, millions of actuality, to homes when they come home from break, arrest them in their home. Arrest the judges that are not going to uphold the Constitution. Arrest the congressmen at their home. Worry about everybody being mowed down in D.C. When we are smart enough to band together and actually do something that's going to be effective, that's not going to lead to further destruction in this country, at least try to take the last peaceful means that we have available to us, then we can say we've done it all. Then we can
what are you
say,
going to do about
yes,
the local judges? What are you going to do about the local politicians that are implementing this crap?
You wait till they
yes.
go home. Just watched a video this week of an unconstitutional group of sheriffs in a courtroom and a judge who told the people that were there in the courtroom that was her court and that she was in charge and they needed to sit down and shut up and that they could not film after they had presented notification to the court according to the regulations and law that we will be filming the proceedings. We just saw how that went. So we don't go into the courthouses and pick them up. We wait till they get their ass home. We wait until they show up at home, and then we arrest them. We saw in Texas, we saw a raid on a constitutional group that had served a summons to a judge. And the FBI came in, fingerprinted 60 of them, took their cell phones, and put them on a list. We don't do that. We don't go serve summons. We serve warrants. You take them into custody, and you put them on trial, and they pay for their crimes according. Listen, every time, and I say this constantly, every time a foreign invader kills an American citizen in this country because they open the borders on us, they are an accessory to murder. Now, in this country, more people lose their lives to foreign invaders than we lost in a 12-year Iraqi war. There are numerous counts of accessory to murder, which holds the same penalty. If I go in and rob a bank, you're driving the car, I kill somebody, we get caught, you're going to get it for capital murder, just like I am. You were in the car, you never even went in the building.
It's worse than that, Becky. Any official that is sworn to the Constitution that aids an invasion of the Republic is giving aid and comfort to enemies of the United States and is waging war against them.
U.S. Constitution
they're committing treaties.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, Article 3, Section 3. But anyway, they're committing treason. And they need to be arrested or shot for that action because it's costing Americans their lives.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Yeah, all right, Eric being the guest on the show today. Eric, what say you, brother, to what I just mentioned?
I think 100% dead on, Becky. They have homes. They can be arrested. They can be put on trial, okay? If we go through and if we concentrate our efforts on joining together to accomplish this, we can accomplish it. If we don't, then what we're doing is playing right into their hands. I would like for Bill and everybody to check out a particular website. They know about this site. It's Deagle.com. That's D as in Delta, E as in Echo, A as in Apple, G as in Golf, E as in Echo, L as in Lima. Deagle.com. Now, if you'll go to Deagle.com, you're going to find that this is a military-industrial complex website. This is a place where you can actually go to buy arms and ammunition for armies, okay? I'm talking ships, I'm talking tanks, I'm talking armored personnel carriers, helicopters, cargo planes, nuclear weapons, all types of strategic missiles, even space-based weaponry can be purchased through Deagle.com. If you go to their links down at the bottom of the page, you're going to find out that they have actual links where you can contact these manufacturers and purchase your weaponry. They have current news that's added daily to the front page at Deagle.com. So this is not a joke website, and it's not a new website. It's been up for a long, long time. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you're going to see a couple of links right in the middle. You'll see corporations, and then you'll see countries. Now, if you click into countries, the United States of America is going to be listed at the very top. If you click into the top, you're going to find out that it's got every statistic for the United States located right there, as far as our military capability, our population, our gross domestic product, every sort of stat that you would need to learn strategically about the United States. And it has this on every nation in the world. So when you scroll down to the bottom of the United States link there, once you click into the United States, you scroll down to the bottom. As you're scrolling through, you're going to find that they have all of the latest news on our military capability and such. When you get to the bottom, you're going to find that the sources for all of the information on that page are the CIA, the Department of Defense, the State Department, the World Bank, and the European Union. Okay, so all of these are very well. They're sources that are in the know. So when we scroll back up to the top, there's some very important information that we need to know. The depopulation of America is a planned event. It's planned and it's monitored. It's planned by our own government, elements within our own government. The CIA, the State Department, the Department of Defense gives these stats. You'll find at the top the stats for 2013. You'll see that we had 316 million legal residents in the United States, legal citizens in the United States, 316 million. Now, when you scroll down just a little bit, you've got the projected results for the year 2025. And by 2025, the population of America drops from 250 million people. We're only estimated to have 69 million people in this country. 69 million from 316. That means the depopulation of America is a planned event, and it's planned by our own intelligence agencies. Okay,
Eric,
now
I have a question. I have a question for you, brother. Since you're saying that, we've talked about EMPs and how we can counter this. We see that's their intention. I mean, that is unequivocal. I mean, and they're being so transparent about it. And then you talk about the Georgia Guidestones. Anybody that knows what is written on those, and the fact that they put 2014 up on the corner. You know, I mean, there's got to be a way that we can counter this. So we were talking about the EMPs and things of that nature, how it would affect us. We know they have Faraday, technology just like we do, probably more advanced, obviously. Let me ask you this. What do you knock out a communication system in war? I mean, what do you use? I mean, if we were at war with them, which step do I use to knock out a communication in war, in other words?
Okay. The first thing we need to realize is that to knock out communications is going to be a very easy step. There's a number of ways to do it. This flood of illegal immigrants and this flood of Muslim extremists that are coming into the nation right now, they may, in fact, be the catalyst that destroys our infrastructure and our communication. They've got a number of ways that they can do this. Now, if you can't disarm a populace, the next best thing is to kill them. So I believe that that's what's being set up right now. There's a number of ways to knock out communications. EMP blasts can be done very cheaply now. The government has all sorts of missiles that can be launched locally, and there's 3 spots in the United States that you can blast an EMP and knock out pretty much the entire electric and communication grid. And that's only 3 spots. And then there's a number of ways to do it locally even. Number of these terrorist groups, you'll find that they're known as the School of Americas, the School of the Americas. And one of the things that they teach there is guerrilla warfare and terrorism. Simply throwing chains over local power stations, over the lines of local power stations, blasting local communications towers, and there's a number of ways to do it. It depends on whether you want to do it locally or nationally, but they only need to strike 3 places in order for this to take place nationally. Now, that's wiping out our communication. Now, how can we wipe out theirs? Basically, they have redundancy after redundancy after redundancy. So it's going to be doggone near impossible to eliminate their communications.
At what point?
Well, I was wondering when.
Go ahead.
When? What's the step that they do it in war for anybody? Which step is it? Not how. We know how, but when.
Yeah, the when, that's going to depend too. That's going to depend on a number of factors. But you can bet if a civil war were to start up in the United States, it would the communication would be cut immediately. It would be cut immediately.
That's in any war. That's in any war. Everybody
that you go for the communication.
That's the very first thing. You're going to blind them. So therefore that kind of negates the coming together. There'd be no way of communicating. Now the how, if it's going to be how, it's going to be more of an internal thing, because if you have a spy within, you're not going to have to worry about knocking out externally, because everybody talks about these power grids and Faraday cages and whatnot. It's there's no need for it. There's no need for it, because the power grids are going to go down are the conventional ones. The ones that are going to stay up are the windmills that are routing electricity all over the country, because those, in essence, are Faraday cages, and there's a reason they've been built all across the country. They're Faraday cages, each one, each propeller, each thing that's been brought up on those long, huge semi-trucks and so on and so forth. They made these big, huge windmill farms. And what is the purpose for that? Well, with digital meters, they're just simply going to control, alt, delete. This city's done. Control, alt, delete, that's he's done. And, of course, I'm using control, alt, delete as just an example. They could just be even more simpler, like point and click. But I think this has been extensively researched, proved time and time and again that we're groomed to submit, and we're groomed to divide ourselves. And bringing together under one blanket is just going to be damn near impossible. So I know we've already established there seems to be no end in sight, no real way, no real solution. But we have to have a solution. Of course, everybody knows my solution. Everybody knows where I'm going. And but for the people that are going to remain, we've got to give them something to live for, something to strive for. And we pretty much know that they've conceived every possible notion. They've conceived that, hey, we're going to appeal to every particular type of group, minority, so on and so forth. And we set the stage. We set the stage. It's primed and ready to go. When do we think of a solution for the people, for the next generation?
That's why I propose local 5-man guerrilla teams, is because they will act locally. They will have runners to communicate with local units, and you won't need electronic communications if that all goes down. You can communicate locally between the units using runners and couriers. You just have to go. I
want to go even a little bit further. Why the 5? Because
I don't know, man. I gotta think for Army Special Forces.
No, there's a reason for it, and I know the reason.
You guys, you've got like 1 minute, and then it's going to disconnect me. I have no control over it. So
okay, I love all of y'all. God bless.
Listen, wait. If the panel would like to meet back with me tomorrow at 2:00, I would love to pick this show back up. I will schedule a show for 2:00, open mic. And every one of you are welcome to come back on the show tomorrow. I want to thank the panel. I want to thank the guests. Keep that thought, and please join me. Can I get a hello, yes, no, maybe so?
Amen, baby.
Yes,
amen.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
fantastic. Eric, will you please join us again tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Standard?
Is that 2 p.m.
Yes,
Eastern?
sir. Yes,
yeah, I sure
Central
will.
Standard Time. God bless you guys. I'm going to have to cut the show off now. It's going to cut me off. Thank you for listening to Rage Against the Regime. For all my listeners out there, God bless you for having patience with me and the technical challenges I had today. And I'll see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. on Rage Against the Regime podcast. Y'all have a blessed night.
Have a good night. God bless.
Rage,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Rage.
Rage. Amen.
Rage.